Amara stood in front of the mirror, quiet. The white wedding dress she wore was beautiful, but it didn't feel like hers. It was the kind of dress she had seen in magazines growing up in America, but not the one she had dreamed of as a child in Nigeria. Her hands smoothed the front of the gown. It fit perfectly, but it didn't feel right. Inside, she felt like a stranger looking back at her own reflection. In her mind, voices echoed from the past. Your roots are not shame, her mother had told her just a week ago, holding up a red and gold native dress. Your grandmother wore this same pattern. Your great-grandmother too. But Jordan didn't want that. He had made it clear. No ankara, no beads, no head wrap. My family won't understand all that, he said sharply during the last wedding meeting. Just keep it simple, clean, Western. At the time, Amara nodded. She didn't want to fight. She told herself it was just one day. Just one dress. It didn't mean she was giving up who she was. But now, standing there, she wasn't so sure. The door opened behind her. Jordan stepped in, dressed in a sharp black tuxedo. He looked proud, confident. He came up behind her and placed a hand on her waist. You did good, babe, he said, kissing her cheek. You look American enough. She turned to him, gave a small smile, but her eyes were tired. This is what you wanted, she said softly. He didn't respond, just gave her a once-over and nodded. Don't mess it up now, he said before walking out. Amara looked back at the mirror. Was she really messing anything up? Or had she already lost something she couldn't name? Downstairs, the music started playing. Guests were arriving, laughter and voices floating through the air. The hall was full of colors, pastels, whites, silvers. Expensive perfumes and flashing cameras. Amara stood at the top of the stairs, ready to make her entrance. Bridesmaids whispered behind her. The photographer snapped pictures. Then, everything changed. A sleek black car pulled up outside. People turned. Some leaned over to get a better look. The door opened. A tall man stepped out. He wore full Igbo royal attire, rich red and gold with coral beads around his neck. A carved staff in his hand. Confidence in his walk. The room went quiet. Jordan turned to see what everyone was looking at. When he saw the man, his face went pale. Amara's heart skipped. The man looked straight at her. And then he smiled. Ada Igbo, he said. It's been a long time. Amara couldn't move. She just stared. Everything she had tried to hide came rushing back at once. And the wedding was just beginning. Amara was born in Enugu, Nigeria. Her early years were filled with joy, laughter, and deep culture. Her mother, Ijeoma, raised her alone, but never made her feel the absence of a father. They lived in a small house with big love. Every weekend, they went to the market, cooked native dishes, and danced to old Igbo songs. Her mother would say, "No matter where you go, remember who you are." Amara was a smart child, always asking questions, always dreaming. When she turned 16, her mother made a hard decision. They moved to the United States for a better future. The move was not easy. Everything was new: cold winters, fast food, busy streets, and different ways of life. Amara missed the sound of drums in the evening, the smell of egusi soup, the warmth of her neighborhood back home. In school, she worked hard. She wanted to make her mother proud. They didn't have much, but they had each other. Ijeoma always wore her native clothes proudly, even in a place where people stared. "This is my skin," she'd say when people made fun of her head wraps or bold print. But Amara started to hide parts of herself. She didn't want to stand out. She didn't want to be different. Years later, Amara got into law school. That's where she met Jordan. Jordan was everything she thought she wanted. Handsome, confident, funny, and successful. He was Nigerian American, born and raised in the US, but his family was wealthy and well-connected. At first, it felt like a dream. He understood her jokes. He spoke a little Igbo. He even said he liked her cooking. But slowly, things started to change. Jordan never wanted to talk about Nigeria. He called it backward and too much. When Amara played old Igbo songs, he turned them off. "We're in America now," he would say. "Let's act like it." At family events, his parents gave Amara strange looks. They were polite but cold. They never asked about her background. Once, his mother pulled her aside and said, "If you want to fit in, you might want to tone down the whole village girl thing." Amara laughed it off. She thought it wasn't a big deal. She loved Jordan. He loved her, at least she thought he did. But the pressure grew. Jordan told her to straighten her hair for dinner with his boss. He said her accent made her sound fresh off the boat. He asked her not to speak Igbo in public. Little by little, Amara gave in. She told herself it was just for now. That love meant compromise. Her mother saw what was happening. "This is not love," Ijeoma said one night after a family visit. "You are slowly disappearing." Amara stayed quiet. She didn't want to argue. She was tired. She wanted peace. Then came the proposal. Jordan planned everything. A fancy restaurant, a big ring, his friends taking pictures. Amara smiled for the camera, but inside, she felt a strange emptiness. Still, she said yes. The wedding plans began right away. Jordan's family took control. venue, food, guest list. Everything had to be modern, clean, tasteful. No drums. No native dances. No traditional clothes. Amara asked if she could wear a second outfit, maybe just for the reception, a native dress her mother had been saving. Jordan said no. Look, babe, he told her one night, my family is watching. I'm not ashamed of where I come from, but they don't understand all that stuff. It's just better this way. She felt a lump in her throat but nodded. Her mother walked out of the planning meeting in tears. You are throwing yourself away for these people, she said. But I will not watch you become invisible. Still, Amara moved forward with the wedding. She told herself it was love, that maybe it would all make sense after the vows. But the closer the wedding day came, the more lost she felt. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Still, she chose him. Because sometimes, even the strongest heart can believe that love means silence. And sometimes, silence costs too much. 1 week before the wedding, Amara sat on the living room floor with fabric samples spread around her. Her mother sat beside her, holding a folded cloth, rich red with golden embroidery. It was simple but beautiful, traditional but not loud, just enough to feel like home. I want to wear this after the church ceremony, Amara said gently, just for the reception. Her mother smiled. It's perfect. It shows respect for both sides. Amara nodded. She had picked the fabric carefully. It wasn't bold, just a soft, elegant blend that carried quiet pride in her culture. She had even gotten a designer to make it into a fitted, modern-style dress. But when Jordan saw it during a final planning meeting, his smile dropped. What's this? He asked, holding up the fabric. Amara stood up. It's just a second outfit, for after the ceremony. I wanted to include a little. No, he cut her off. No, Ankara. We already talked about this. She tried to explain. It's not loud. It's really classy. Just for the reception. My mom's been. Amara, no, Jordan snapped. His voice was louder now. You don't get it. My family isn't like yours. They don't want to see all that. Amara looked at him, confused. All what? That village stuff. Tribal clothes. My uncle is flying in from the UK. My mom already said she didn't want any cultural drama. Amara's heart dropped. Jordan, it's not drama. It's just who I am. He looked away. Well, maybe who you are doesn't fit this wedding. The room went quiet. Her mother, standing nearby, stared at Jordan with anger in her eyes. You don't deserve my daughter, she said calmly. You want her body, her face, her love, but not her roots? Jordan didn't respond. Ijeoma picked up her bag. I'm done talking, she said, and walked out of the room. Amara stood still, holding the fabric like it might slip through her hand. Her throat burned, but she didn't cry. That night, she sent the tailor a message. Cancel the second dress. It's not needed. But the tailor didn't listen. 2 days later, a box arrived at Amara's apartment. Inside was the finished dress, soft, folded neatly, and with a small note. Even if you don't wear it, let it remind you, you are not shame. Mama Ifioma Taylor. Amara touched the fabric gently, then placed it at the back of her closet. She didn't tell anyone. The wedding day came. The halls were filled with soft music, white flowers, and polished smiles. Amara wore the western gown Jordan chose. She walked down the stairs slowly, past guests who clapped politely. Outside, more guests were arriving. Luxury cars pulled up, one after another. Then one black car arrived different. It didn't have flashy rims or a shiny logo, but it drew everyone's attention. The driver stepped out and opened the back door. A man stepped out, tall and calm. He wore a native outfit, shining red and gold, exactly the same fabric as the dress in Amara's closet. The guests gasped. He held a carved staff, his chest decorated with coral beads. His walk was slow, powerful, royal. Amara's eyes widened. Her hands shook. She knew that fabric, that pattern, that shade. It was hers. And now it was his. Jordan froze. His jaw clenched. The man looked straight at Amara. And then he smiled. Ada Igbo, he said softly. You haven't changed. Everyone turned to stare. Whispers spread through the hall. But Amara couldn't speak. She didn't know whether to cry or smile. The truth she tried to hide had just walked through the door, wearing the part of her she left behind. The hall was quiet, all eyes still on the man in traditional royal attire. He walked with calm strength, the red and gold fabric flowing around him like a flag of honor. Every step he took made the silence louder. Amara felt her heart racing. She hadn't seen him in years, not since she left Enugu. But there was no mistake. This was Kelechi. Prince Kelechi, her childhood friend, the boy who used to walk her to the market, who taught her how to speak royal greetings properly. The son of an Igbo king. He had grown into himself, taller, broader, more powerful in presence. But his smile was the same. Warm. Real. Kelechi stopped just a few feet from Amara. Ada Igbo, he said again gently. The way he said it made her eyes sting. That name. No one had called her that since she left Nigeria. It meant daughter of Igbo. A name of pride. Of respect. Amara opened her mouth but couldn't speak. Jordan came up quickly, standing between them. "Excuse me," Jordan said, forcing a smile. "And you are?" Kelechi raised an eyebrow but stayed calm. "His Royal Highness, Prince Kelechi Obianuju of NRI. And you?" "I'm the groom," Jordan replied tightly. "Ah," Kelechi nodded, then turned back to Amara. "Congratulations, Ada Igbo. You look different, but still carry the same light." Whispers began to float around the room. "Did he say prince? She knows royalty? What does Ada Igbo mean?" Jordan's mother leaned toward one of her sisters. "He called her daughter of Igbo. How does she know a prince?" Jordan pulled Amara aside, his hand firm on her arm. "What the hell is going on?" he hissed. Amara looked at him, still in shock. "He's Kelechi, from Enugu. I grew up with him, and you didn't think to mention your little royal connection?" Jordan snapped, voice low but sharp. "I didn't know he was coming," she said. "I haven't seen him in years." Jordan stepped back, breathing hard. "This is exactly what I was talking about. All this Nigerian drama, you just brought it right into the middle of my wedding." She stared at him. "Your wedding?" He ignored her tone. "Everyone's confused. My family is whispering. You're making me look like a fool." Amara's voice broke slightly. "I didn't plan this, Jordan. But it's happening," he said, his eyes dark. "You let that guy show up looking like a king, calling you names no one understands. You're humiliating me." That word hit her hard. Humiliating? That's what her heritage was to him? Before she could respond, a voice rose in the distance. Calm, clear, strong. It was Kelechi. He stood in the center of the hall now, holding up a wine glass. "I would like to make a short toast," he said, smiling politely. "To the bride." Everyone quieted again. Kelechi turned toward Amara. "Most of you know her as Amara. But in my village, we call her something else." He switched to Igbo, loud and proud. "Ada Igbo, daughter of a proud line, granddaughter of warriors, niece of wisdom. Her roots run deep." Amara blinked fast. Her chest felt tight. Kelechi continued. "I knew her as a child. Her spirit was fire. Her heart was wide. She gave food to hungry boys like me and carried her name with pride. Her mother raised her well." He raised his glass higher. "To Ijeoma, who never forgot who she was, and to her daughter, who will remember again." Everyone clapped, though not all understood the words. Amara looked around. Some people smiled. Some looked confused. Jordan's mother looked furious. Jordan leaned in, his voice bitter. "You told him to do this, didn't you? You planned it." "I didn't," she whispered. Jordan's hand tightened. "You better fix this. Now." But she pulled her arm away. And then, the door at the back of the hall opened. Heads turned. Ijeoma walked in, dressed in full native attire. Bright red and gold, matching the fabric in Amara's closet, and the one Kelechi wore. She held her head high, her steps slow and steady, her eyes scanning the room without fear. A few guests gasped. Others began whispering louder. "She wore it anyway? Isn't that the same as the prince? Who is this woman?" Amara felt something shift inside her. A shaking stop. A deep stillness. Her mother walked toward her with quiet pride and stood beside her, her eyes meeting Jordan. "I told you," Ijeoma said softly. "This day would show who you really are." Jordan looked at Amara, waiting for her to say something, to take his side, to calm things down. But she stayed silent. The whispers grew louder. And for the first time in a long time, Amara didn't want to hide from it. The air in the hall was heavy now. Guests stood in small groups, whispering behind glasses of champagne. Eyes kept darting between Amara, her mother, and Prince Kelechi. Jordan's family was tense. His mother, Adora, stepped forward, her voice louder than it needed to be. "This is too much," she said, looking around. "First that prince shows up uninvited. Then her mother walks in like it's a village festival. What kind of show is this?" Her words hit like a slap. Amara turned, her heart pounding. Adora kept going. "I thought she was from a modest home, raised well enough. But now it looks like she's been hiding things. Who really is this girl? What is she trying to prove?" Kelechi stepped forward slowly, his face calm but serious. "She's not trying to prove anything," he said, voice deep and steady. "She is someone, whether you see it or not." Adora narrowed her eyes. "And who are you exactly? What gives you the right to speak like this in front of our guests?" "I am Prince Kelechi Obianuju of the Kingdom of NRI, he said. "And I knew Amara long before any of you did." Adora folded her arms. "So? What are you trying to say?" Kelechi looked directly at Jordan now. "Do you even know the woman you're marrying?" he asked. "Do you know her story?" Jordan scoffed, trying to stay composed. "Of course I do. She came from a small town, got a scholarship, worked hard." "What's your point?" Kelechi nodded slowly. "My point is that she wasn't just some small-town girl. Amara was once considered to be a future princess of NR. My father spoke to her mother about it before she left for America. She was almost chosen as my betrothed." Gasps filled the room. You could hear a pin drop. Jordan blinked. "What?" Kelechi stepped closer. "But she left, because her mother wanted a better life for her. She gave up a title, a crown, a kingdom, without ever mentioning it. She didn't use it to gain anything. She lived humbly. But you tried to make her feel small. Amara stood still, not moving, not speaking. She could feel every eye in the room on her. Jordan looked around, trying to laugh it off. Okay, this is getting out of hand. Let's just cool down and… No, Amara said, her voice clear. Jordan looked at her. What? I'm done, she said, her voice stronger now. I can't marry you. People gasped again. Jordan stepped forward quickly. Amara, don't do this. You're just upset. We can talk about it later. She shook her head. No. You've been trying to change me since the day we met. First it was my hair, then my voice, then my clothes. I gave up little pieces of myself every time just to keep you happy. Jordan's face tightened. I was just trying to help you fit in. I don't need to fit in, she said. I needed someone who saw me. All of me. Her eyes were wet, but her voice didn't break. You were embarrassed by where I came from. But now that the truth is out, you're embarrassed by what you lost. She turned and walked toward her mother, who reached into a small bag and pulled out the dress, the native gown Amara had hidden away. Without a word, Amara took it. She stepped behind a nearby screen at the side of the hall. Her bridesmaids followed in silence, helping her change. The white dress slid off easily. The red and gold dress wrapped around her like it belonged. It did. When she stepped back out, the room went completely silent. Her head was high, her back straight. The dress shimmered under the light. No veil, no heels. Just her, real and whole. She walked through the crowd. No music, no speeches, just her footsteps. She reached the exit, turned around once, and looked back at everyone. I was never ashamed of who I was, she said. I only forgot for a little while. Then she opened the door and walked out into the sunlight. Free. Weeks passed. The wedding was over, but the story had just begun for Amara. At first, she stayed quiet. She spent days at home, thinking, resting, and healing. Her phone buzzed with messages, some kind, some nosy, some full of gossip. She ignored most of them. But one morning, she woke up and looked at herself in the mirror. No makeup, no dress, just her face, her eyes, her skin. And for the first time in a long while, she smiled at her reflection. She remembered the feeling of walking out of that wedding hall, wearing her native dress with pride. That moment stayed with her. She thought about all the other girls like her, trying to fit into places that didn't welcome their roots. Trying to sound, look, or act right just to be accepted. She knew she had to do something. With the support of her mother and a few close friends, Amara started a small nonprofit. She named it Ada Roots, in honor of the name Kelechi called her, Ada Iba. The mission was simple, to help young Nigerian girls, especially those in the diaspora, embrace their culture, their voice, and their identity. The group held workshops, events, and mentorship programs. Girls came in shy and unsure. They left with their heads high, wearing colorful wraps, speaking their mother tongues, and smiling with pride. Amara spoke at schools, churches, and women's groups. She didn't hide anymore. She shared her story, even the painful parts. Her mother, Ijeoma, was always beside her, sometimes quietly watching, other times speaking with her own strong voice. You were born for this, she said one evening as they prepared gift packs for an event. Not to be silent, but to remind others that silence is not strength. One Saturday afternoon, there was a knock at the door of the center where Amara worked. She opened it and saw Kelechi. He was dressed simply, no beads, no royal staff. Just jeans and a plain shirt. Amara smiled. Royalty looks casual today. He smiled back. I came as your friend, not a prince. They sat outside under a tree and talked. About life, about choices, about the weight of names and the power of letting go. There was a time I hoped for something more, he said, looking at her kindly. But now, I see you're already everything you're meant to be. Amara nodded. Maybe that's all we need. Not love from others. Just truth. And peace. Kelechi stood up and gave her a small wrapped gift. Inside was a necklace with a simple charm, the Igbo symbol for strength. Just a reminder, he said, in case you ever forget. She thanked him. They didn't hug or promise to see each other again. They didn't need to. Some friendships are full without saying too much. As he walked away, Amara looked around her. The center was full of girls laughing, music playing, colorful fabrics swinging on. Her mother stood at the gate, waving 2 children inside. And Amara? She felt full. Not because of a title or a man or a perfect dress, but because she finally stood in her own story. And it was enough. The lights were soft and the room was full. People sat at round tables dressed in bright colors, lace, velvet, beads, and ankara. The music had stopped, and all eyes were on the stage. Amara stood at the center, wearing a full native outfit. Deep red and gold fabric wrapped around her body with grace. Her hair was done in traditional braids, with tiny beads at the ends. She wore a coral necklace and earrings that once belonged to her grandmother. She looked out at the crowd. Her hands shook slightly, but her heart felt strong. She took a breath and began to speak. "There was a time," she said slowly, "when I thought I had to shrink to be loved. I thought I had to hide parts of myself, my voice, my name, my clothes, even my history. The room was quiet. I let people tell me that being Nigerian was too much, that I should sound more American, dress like everyone else, stay quiet when it mattered." She paused. Her eyes found her mother at the front table, smiling gently. "I almost gave up who I was to fit into someone else's world, but I learned something powerful." She stepped forward, her voice stronger now. "My truth, my full, honest self, is the most royal thing I own." Applause began to rise, soft at first, then louder. People stood. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Amara smiled. "I started Ada Roots so no girl would ever feel she has to hide her roots to be worthy. We are more than enough, loud, beautiful, bold, and rooted." The claps grew louder. She looked around the room one more time. She saw young girls in traditional wrappers, proud mothers, aunties laughing, and uncles nodding with respect. And there, in the front row, her mother sat with both hands in her lap, tears in her eyes but joy on her face. Amara breathed deeply, not to calm herself, but to feel the moment. She was no longer pretending. She was home in her own skin, at peace. Hey besties, thanks so much for watching till the end. If you loved Amara's story of reclaiming her roots and walking away from fake love, don't forget to like, share, comment, and of course, subscribe for more drama-filled stories. Up next, her friends invited everyone except her to their girls' trip, so she booked one seat beside. Don't miss it. Bye besties, see you in the next one.